It is a special bonus edition of Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to come to you for a second time on Tuesday because it means Joe Mauer has been elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, getting that word officially on Tuesday, right around 5:20 it happened. Got the official word that he is part of a 3-member class that will be enshrined in Cooperstown in July. And what an honor. Just what a career, what a journey, what a story. Everybody knows it. It feels like it's almost a cliche because it's so perfect almost. The hometown kid drafted by the hometown team, plays his entire career here. Yes, everything doesn't go exactly according to plan. Late in the career, injury problems, concussions, moves to first base, but the storybook nature of having a career that becomes a first ballot Hall of Fame career. We cannot overlook just the specialness of that and what this moment must mean to the Mauer family. Just an unbelievable honor for Joe Mauer. It's moments like these that it's almost hard to remember how polarizing part of Mauer's career was, right? And that's something I'm going to get into with Velle E. Neal III, Star Tribune columnist. He'll join me here in just a few minutes. But the fact that it was so controversial that Joe Mauer didn't hit enough home runs, or that the Twins didn't win enough or didn't win at all in the playoffs. There were things that were put on Joe Mauer's plate, so to speak, that were probably unfair at the time and maybe caused us to view his career in real time through a lens that was obscured. He kind of came into prominence right as, social media, Twitter was becoming a big thing. Like, it gave rise to the voices of critics, gave rise, newspaper, online comments, things like that. If he was a generation ago, I think maybe he is perceived a lot differently. That said, you can tell by the reaction today. You can tell by the reaction on social media. You can tell by the reaction from the baseball world at large that he had such a huge amount of respect that the vast majority of people, it was a small, quiet minority that was questioning him along the way. The vast majority of people respected his career, respected his greatness, and that was, the results that you saw in the voting. Now, the voting itself was interesting to me. We've been following along on the Hall of Fame tracker for quite a while, and I said on this morning show, it almost felt anticlimactic because you could tell from where he was in the voting that it was a virtual lock. He was on like 83.5% of ballots, and then 57% of those ballots were known by the time this announcement was made. It felt like he was a cinch, and he did get in, but the final tally, he got 76.1% of the vote, which means that a lot of people who didn't vote for him were obviously not part of the public-facing show us your ballots crowd. Now, these things tend to go down after the tracker. The tracker number is usually 4 points or so higher than the final number, but his number was 7.4 points lower than he was tracking. He made it by 4 votes. 4 votes got him into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Nothing to take away from that. Just interesting. I thought the margin would be much more comfortable. Thought he'd be right around 80% based on how the tracker looked. 79%, 80%. Not a slam dunk, not Adrian Beltre numbers. He got like 95% of the vote, one of the 3 members of the class, including Mauer and Todd Helton. But I thought Mauer, based on what we were seeing, everything we were hearing, would be much more comfortable. Now, at the end of the day, all that matters is you got in. All that matters is he's there. First ballot Hall of Famer, which is an unbelievable distinction. Only 3 catchers all time. First ballot Hall of Famers, Joe Mauer, Johnny Bench, and Pudge Rodriguez. Those are your 3 that got in on the first ballot. That is an incredible distinction for Joe Mauer. And the MLB Network folks spent a decent time of the pre-announcement show kind of debating the Mauer candidacy, talking about, he didn't play all that many games at catcher relative to a lot of the other Hall of Famers. I think only one Hall of Famer who played over 100 years ago played fewer games at catcher and got in as a catcher, kind of debating, his stats, counting numbers, batting average versus this, that, and the other thing. Bottom line is that Joe Mauer did enough, more than enough, to be qualified and to be voted in as a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Huge day in Minnesota sports, and a huge day, obviously, for Joe Mauer.
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
Royal Credit Union's Smart Checking accounts offer no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Enjoy financial freedom when you open your Royal Credit Union Smart Checking account online at rcu.org/go-checking. Insured by NCUA.
As promised on this special edition of Daily Delivery, I have Velle E. Neal III here, Star Tribune columnist, longtime Twins beat writer, covered, Velle, the entirety of the Mauer era, right?
Yeah, that's correct. He was drafted in 01. I think he was in the majors by 04.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's and he retired after the 2019 season.
2018, I think.
2018, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, because 2019 was the Bomber Squad.
Correct.
That was one of the more disappointing things. If he was able to just play one more season, He would have been in front of all those Bomber Squatters.
Yes.
He probably would have scored 100 runs.
Might have scored 300 runs. Prime Mauer would have scored 300 runs, and it is Prime Mauer that got him into the Baseball Hall of Fame, elected first ballot, getting that news just a little while ago. Velle, your thoughts, just this whole process, and now that he's in.
It's amazing. I remember, it's funny when I'm right about this for tomorrow too. When you get to like the end of something or the destination of something, you kind of go back to how things began, and I still remember Mauer wearing number 79 in his first major league spring training camp, and belting line drives all over the ballpark with Justin Morneau. We're like, these guys are going to be really good. We didn't know how good Joe was going to be. But it was pretty obvious at the beginning that he was going to be a high impact player. Too bad he didn't hit for more power. He was threatening to early in his career. He hit 13 homers his rookie year, but that knee injury kind of took the wind out of his sails a little bit. And of course, the unfortunate concussion forced him to first base. The whole totality of the thing is that, first of all, he's a nice guy. He comes from a great family. He's done St. Paul proud. Mauer, Winfield, Jack Morris, and now Mauer are all in the Hall of Fame. And Mauer is the only one who did it with as an original Twin. The other guys came in from other teams and ended up playing with the Twins for a couple of years. But Mauer was draft born in St. Paul, drafted by the Twins, plays all year, his entire career with the Twins. His prowess as a catcher has gone unmatched during his heyday. Could control the running game, powerful arm, great at the plate, unique approach. Didn't mind starting at bats at 0-2 and then hitting the line drive to left field. I mean, that was his thing. He did it better than anyone else. MVP in 2009. And the thing is, he didn't change as a person. He's always the same nonplussed, reserved guy who really wasn't boisterous, never caused controversy, not with his words, more for being unfortunately with some injuries during his career and the concussions, but never said or did anything that was controversial. So, I mean, he's a hometown hero, and it's really cool for the Twin Cities to see Joe get this. Just the third catcher ever to be elected on his first ballot.
That's amazing. And I thought there at the beginning, when he retired and as the first few years of his retirement went on and, inevitably we got the discussion of, is Joe Mauer a Hall of Famer? I thought there was a discussion flat out to be had on that, just because I worried that the latter stages of his career after the concussion problems, after the move to first base, that people would remember that more than just the sustained excellence, dominance from, really like 2006 through, mostly 2012, 13. He was great in almost all those years and superhuman in 2009. I worried about that. I worried that he didn't have the postseason moments that someone like a Kirby Puckett had. But when it came down to it, the voters just said, no, this guy is flat out not just a Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Did that surprise you?
A little bit. I thought he was going to get in for sure. And this goes back 2-3 years, having conversations with other writers about Mauer, and they're like, we're willing to overlook the 5 years as a first baseman and focus on his 10 as a catcher. And I was like, well, if you guys do that, then he's a Hall of Famer. That run he had was amazing. Only catcher to win 3 batting titles. All the accolades he had during that run. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. The whole championship thing is a hard topic for me. It goes on in sports, especially in the NBA. It seems like who's got rings ends up being thrown into the conversation more than any other sport. I don't know. It's not fair to like Ernie Banks and some other guys who never had a chance, to have glory. And as Jim Swam pointed out today, the narrative on Mauer could have been rewritten if Phil Cuzzy just calls his double down the left field line in the postseason fair. Who knows what would happen? History could have been rewritten for that.
Well, they hit the bases loaded with nobody out that inning anyway, and they still didn't score. I'm done with that revisionist history. Everything else you're saying though, I'm buying. I'm into that. I'm into what you're saying.
He did not get glory because of a mistake by an umpire. That could have changed everything. He
still hit a single. They still loaded the bases. Anyway, this is not a Phil Cuzzy trashing podcast. But I hear what you're saying. Like maybe that inning is different. That's entirely possible. Maybe it changes the tenor of the inning. The fact is they still had bases loaded, nobody out, and didn't score. They may have sent them on the way to win a game, so that 18-game winning streak would have never gotten to 18. True. That's true. They should have won that game anyway. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, he 10 postseason games he doesn't win, but that's not his fault, right? Like he didn't have great postseason numbers, but those teams just like ran up against better competition. What the voters obviously looked at was a guy who was just dominant for long enough at a unique enough position that this honor is bestowed upon him.
Yeah, and they have a history. The voters have a history of smiling upon those who've had careers shortened because of injury. Sandy Koufax is one. Kirby Puckett is another. That argument should have been extended to Tony Oliva, but he eventually got in through the Veterans Committee. But they've looked favorably on players whose best year, as long as they've had like several years of dominance, and then if they do have a debilitating injury, they've not held it against them too much. And it looks like the voters have done that in this case. So I applaud them. I thought Mauer would get in maybe second or third ballot. I didn't think first ballot. And this is an exciting day for Twins fans everywhere. Not just the Twin Cities, but wherever there's a Twins fan, they should be happy that they saw. I keep thinking, I keep getting like these flashes of Joe Mauer's career, and the latest flash is how people would sit in their seats. It's like 9:45. It's like the 7th or 8th inning, and like fans are like, oh, we got our kids. We got to get them home, put them in bed. Wait, Mauer's coming up. And so they would always hang around, up until like 10:05 to see that last Mauer at bat. And then if you made it out, or if the inning ended, you saw thousands of people get up and just walk out of the stadium. He was a draw, and people want to hang around and watch him. And kudos to the Mauer family. I'm going to have a book published in June on the history of the Twins. And looking back at Mauer, I was determined to find the first time he was mentioned in the Star Tribune in a story. And I think it was like his sophomore year in high school. He was playing basketball. Like he scored 20 points in the game.
Hall, yeah.
But up until that point, I started seeing names of Mauers in like hockey box scores in high school games. So there's a hockey playing side to the family. And we also know there's a refereeing side with Ken Mauer. So it's a proud sports family. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like in Cooperstown on July 21st. It's going to be a mass of humanity for the guy. Few
more things for you before we let you go. One, like you said, he's he was never a controversial figure. He maybe didn't fully let people into his life, even those who knew him really well in the media. But I do have to ask you, as someone who probably knew him about as well as anybody, do you have Mauer stories or Mauer remembrances that stand out from, those so many years of covering him?
A couple. The day that CCO, wait a minute, was it CCO took over Twins? No, when KSTP took over the Twins.
Yeah.
The years that the Twins came to KSTP, they had Mauer on to announce their great acquisition,
Uh-huh.
And Rookie was the sidekick on the show.
Yeah.
And he immediately starts blistering Mauer for attempting a crossfield pass instead of running for a first down in the Cretan Eden Prairie football
prep bowl of like the late 90s. Yeah. 2000s. Yeah.
Hours last year. And so I'm listening to this as I'm driving into the stadium. It's at the Metrodome. I get there, I get in the clubhouse. I see Joe. I said, Joe, I can't believe Rookie went at you like that. And Joe's like, yeah, it was kind of fun. It was kind of strange, wasn't it? And there was a pause and you go, you know what? Everybody says I should have ran for a first down there. I just didn't see it.
That's funny. I never knew that story. That's good. That's funny.
Oh yeah, he is it was and talking to his family through the years, Bill and Jake, and of course Mauer's father, Jake. Jake always called me Velle E. He saw the E at the end. He never could say Lavelle. It was Velle E. And that was fine. I stopped correcting him after 3 or 4 years and just let it roll. He's just
like, thank you, Mr. Mauer. Nice to see you too.
It was a neat family, and like I even knew like his wife's side of the family, the Bazans, from running to him around St. Paul. And the crazy thing is, the Bazans family now manages a townhome community I live in, which is crazy.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So it's the connections, and it's the whole, St. Paul thing. His daughters go to the same grade school as her mother went to. And I'm just happy for the guy. He's a good guy. Everybody likes Joe. He was born with the baseball gene and the nice guy gene. And I think that both being great at both helped him get into the Hall.
I remember seeing him. It was like a birthday party at like a low key bar in St. Paul. It was just like several years ago when he was still playing. And it just seemed like he was just like blending it. It wasn't like people were like, oh, that's Joe Mauer. But he was just there as himself, hanging out with friends. Like you're right. He was larger than life, but never bigger than, he just didn't ever want to command that or be. He didn't ever want to be larger than life, even if he was. And I guess maybe that leads to my final thought. Like, because of his presence, because it was so steady and so great for so long, do you feel like did we not fully appreciate it, or did not enough people fully appreciate it as it was happening? Did we kind of take it for granted? Because I'm feeling a little bit of that right now. Like, man, there was greatness in our midst for so long, and maybe we took it for granted for a while.
Oh, I think so. I mean, leading up to this announcement on Twitter, people were like, he's not a Hall of Famer. He never hit for power. How many championships did he win? He was terrible in the postseason. I mean, always looking at what he couldn't do instead of focusing on what he could do, which is make pitchers feel bad because they would get him on the ropes 0-2 and still lose the at bat. I mean, that was Joe Mauer's the epitome of Mauer. Focusing what you can do, ignore what he can't do. And he was the fulcrum of the Twins offense for several years.
Well said, Lavelle. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.